Max parked the car in front of his childhood home, feeling a lump in his throat as he observed the faded facade and the neglected garden. It had been years since he last set foot there, and the absence of his mother, Elizabeth, weighed on every detail. He took a deep breath, gathering the courage to enter. As he opened the door, the familiar smell hit him like a wave. It was a mixture of lavender, Elizabeth's favourite scent, and something indefinable that he always associated with home. He ran his fingers over the entry table, noticing a fine layer of dust. His eyes scanned the walls, filled with framed photos. The photos froze time. Him as a child, toothlessly smiling. Max as a teenager with his mother. Elizabeth, always radiant. Guilt tightened in his chest. He climbed the stairs. In the bedroom, the bed was made the way she liked. A photo of a picnic on the bedside table. The tears fell. He sat at the edge of the bed, burying his face in his hands. Regret consumed him. Why had he distanced himself so much? Why had he let work and life in the big city become more important than his own mother? Max's initial idea was to quickly leave and sell the house. However, the emotional attachment to that place, which held so many childhood memories, made him reconsider. He decided to take a vacation to organise the property, believing it would be a quick process. Just a few details. However, as he tidied up the house, he allowed himself to relive special memories. One afternoon, while organising some things, Max looked out the kitchen window. Across the street, he noticed a middle-aged woman watering the plants in her garden. She looked in his direction and waved, smiling. Max returned the gesture, a little disconcerted. In the days that followed, the young man noticed that the neighbour, whom he later found out was named Grace, seemed to always be around. When he went out to get the mail, there she was, coincidentally, doing the same. When he mowed the lawn, she appeared offering a pitcher of lemonade. Initially, Max interpreted that attention as mere neighbourly curiosity. But as the days passed, he began to feel uncomfortable with the constant glances and frequent attempts to start conversations. At night, while flipping through an old photo album, Max came across an image that made him pause. It was his mother, young and smiling, hugging another woman. He squinted, recognizing the features. It was Grace, younger but unmistakable. The discovery left him restless. Why had his mother never mentioned this friendship? And perhaps that was why Grace seemed so interested in him now. Max fell asleep with these questions swirling in his mind. The next morning, determined to understand what was going on, Max knocked on Grace's door. She opened it with an expression that mixed surprise and a hint of nervousness. "Max, hi. I wasn't expecting you here. Come in," she said, opening the door wider and gesturing for him to enter. The room was cosy, full of scattered plants and photographs everywhere. Max stood still for a moment, his eyes drawn to several pictures of his mother among the picture frames. "Grace," he began, trying to choose the right words. "I found an old photo of you with my mother. You two were very close, weren't you?" Grace sighed deeply, sitting on the sofa. "Max, there's something your mother wanted to tell you for a long time, but she never found the courage," she said, her voice trembling. "Elizabeth and I, we were half-sisters." The revelation hit Max like a lightning bolt. He remained silent for long seconds, processing the information. "What do you mean?" "She never told me anything," he finally managed to ask. Grace explained that their father, Max's grandfather, had another relationship shortly before marrying Elizabeth's mother. "Your grandmother never knew," she added. "Elizabeth only found out when she was a teenager, and it was a shock to her. It was a secret their father kept for years, without anyone knowing." Grace continued, explaining how she and Elizabeth had only grown close after many years, when they were already older. "We became very close," she said, a sad smile on her lips. "We were more than sisters. We were best friends." Max absorbed every word, his mind filled with questions, wondering how he hadn't known about someone so special to his mother. "And when you moved here, were you already close?" he asked, remembering that Grace didn't live there during his childhood. "It was your grandfather who gave me this house, and he also gave your mother the house you own today," Grace explained. "He wanted to make sure I had a place, despite all the trauma in our relationship. I moved here shortly after you went to college." The mention of college made Max wince, reminding him of how he had distanced himself in recent years. We had a fight," Grace continued, her voice low. "Just before she left. It was something silly, but we never had the chance to fully reconcile." Tears were streaming down Grace's face now, and Max felt his own eyes fill with water. "She loved you so much, Max," Grace said, squeezing his hand. "She talked about you all the time. She was so proud of the man you've become, even though she missed you." Grace's words hit Max deeply. He thought about all the missed calls, the postponed visits, the lost opportunities to tell his mother how much he loved her. Regret consumed him. "I should have been here," he murmured, more to himself than to Grace. "Should have spent more time with her." Grace shook her head gently. "Don't torture yourself, Max." Elizabeth understood. She knew you were building your life, realizing your dreams. It made her happy. After that revealing conversation, Max felt lighter. The need to talk about his mother found a new space in Grace. Someone who knew her closely and could share stories he had never known. In the days that followed, Max and Grace began to spend more time together. What started as hesitant conversations soon turned into genuine exchanges. Grace shared stories about Elizabeth that Max had never heard, revealing unknown facets of his mother. "I learned, for example, that Elizabeth loved to dance and would drag Grace to salsa classes, even when she protested." Grace described the nights they stayed up late talking, laughing about old memories, and dreaming about the future. Max absorbed every detail eagerly, as if he were getting to know his mother for the first time. From Grace's perspective, Elizabeth became more than the loving mother he knew. She revealed herself as a woman with dreams, fears, and a story full of nuances. To his surprise, Max felt a strange relief. Talking with Grace was comforting, almost therapeutic. There, among unexpected stories and laughter, an unlikely friendship blossomed, a connection that seemed to restore something lost in both of their hearts. One afternoon, while they were having tea in Grace's garden, the aroma of fresh flowers seemed to cradle the moment with rare tranquility. The afternoon sun warmed their skin as they talked about Elizabeth. Grace, in a serene tone but laden with melancholy, casually mentioned, "Elizabeth and I were so close, but we had a disagreement shortly before she left. We never had the chance to reconcile. It's a wound I carry with me to this day." Max looked at her, surprised but also understanding. "I know how it is," he replied, lowering his gaze to his cup of tea. "I also left many conversations for later with my mother. I always thought I would have more time, and suddenly, I didn't." They remained silent for a moment, each lost in their own regrets. The wind whispered through the trees, bringing a bittersweet sense of connection and loss. "It's strange," Grace said, breaking the silence. "How we cling to small things and let them grow until they become insurmountable barriers." Max nodded, his thoughts returning to Elizabeth. "I don't want to live like that, leaving things unsaid. I don't want to carry the weight of regrets." Grace smiled gently, with something that seemed to be pride. "Then don't live like this, Max. The time we have is now. It's all we really have." That afternoon marked the beginning of a new dynamic between them. Max, who had always felt the absence of something after the loss of his mother, began to find an unexpected solace in Grace. She, in turn, saw in him an opportunity to somehow make amends for what she couldn't with Elizabeth. As the months went by, the two became inseparable. Grace shared memories, old family recipes, and even the letters that Elizabeth never sent, written on lonely nights but filled with love. Max, on the other hand, helped Grace with day-to-day tasks and took her to places that Elizabeth used to frequent, keeping alive the memory of the mother they both loved so deeply. But it wasn't just the memory of Elizabeth that transformed Max. Gradually, he learned to deal with the grief and guilt that had accompanied him since losing his mother. Grace's presence brought an unexpected lightness, and the deep conversations between them helped him see life with new eyes. "Elizabeth taught me so much even after she was gone," Max said one day as they walked through the garden. "But I think the most important lesson was with you, Grace. What matters is living in the now, not leaving anything for later." Shortly after, Max met someone special. He met her at work. Her name was Mia, a woman with a contagious laugh and a curious outlook on the world. The relationship started slowly, but Max soon realized that she was unlike anything he had ever experienced. When he told Grace about Mia, she smiled as if she knew something he hadn't yet realized. "Your mother would be so happy for you," Grace said, holding Max's hand. With Mia, Max decided he would live differently. He loved intensely, without fear, and never left words or gestures for later. He knew that time was too precious to be wasted. When he finally proposed to Mia, he did it in the same garden as Grace, surrounded by the flowers he and his aunt had planted together. Grace, emotional, gave a brief speech on the wedding day. "Max taught me that it's never too late to start over, and Elizabeth, wherever she is, must be beaming, seeing that her son not only learned to live, but also to love wholeheartedly." Next to Mia and Grace, Max felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: fulfillment. The past, with its pains and regrets, had transformed into a reminder that life is made of moments, and each of them must be lived with presence and love. And this time, Max knew exactly what to do: to love intensely and never leave anything for tomorrow. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.